Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectedRadio.com, the voice of new media. We are in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm your host, Ian Kelly. So, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, there is there's a lot of development. So one aspect of the Vegas Golden Knights, one aspect of hockey that some people do not give enough credit is your junior hockey team. In junior hockey, it developed able to track, your talent, your potential. And when Vegas, and more importantly, they capitalize on the Western Hockey League. We did a video on this channel about the connection between the Brandon Wheat Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. Brandon Wheat Kings are playing in the Western Hockey League, in the WHL, still to this day. Now, the next team we're going to focus on and on tonight's episode is the Seattle Thunderbirds. We're going to focus on Seattle mainly because of how successful the Seattle Thunderbirds have been and the trio of prospects that the Vegas Golden Knights have currently in their system, and two players that are on the NHL team today that came from Seattle. Now, to give you some context on Seattle, they have been playing in the Western Hockey League in Kent, Washington, which is about south of Seattle. They have been there since 1971. They also have the same colors, ironically enough, as the Seattle Seahawks. But when it comes to Seattle, they were founded in 1971. They were part of the WCHL. They move over to the WHL, and they have been part of that ever since. But one part that I have to acknowledge is Seattle played at the field first played at the arena, Seattle Center Coliseum, played at the field for a while until the season was rebuilt to the final arena where the current Seattle Kraken plays. So it's kind of fascinating when you go back and watch footage of the Seattle Kraken, go back and look at footage of the Seattle Thunderbirds, them playing at an NHL style arena for a Western Hockey League is it's also the same team that has a large fan base in Seattle. I've met a few people in Seattle who are a fan of Seattle, and they draw some of the highest attendance numbers in the WHL. They're one of the highest draws in the hockey. So one aspect that I will acknowledge about Seattle is how consistent they have been. Since 2012, the Seattle Thunderbirds have made the playoffs in the WHL every single year. They have also been in the finals, the World Cup finals in 2016 and 2022. So they have been reliable, they have been dependable. This is a franchise, a junior that has been in the finals again. Now, the first person that I'm going to bring to your attention is a center who was drafted in the 2022 NHL draft by the Vegas Golden Knights. That is Jordan. Now, he is a player that can bring some potential to the Vegas Golden Knights. This is a guy who could be a solid player someday in Vegas. Now, he was taken in the third round of the 2022 NHL draft. So one aspect that I have to bring up, and one aspect I was very surprised is that at 18 years old, his stats in the WHL have been quite impressive. Since joining Seattle in 2019, this is a guy who had 52 points in 58 games in 2021, 2022. He is also someone who had a plus 20 minus in that same 2021-2022 season, and in the playoffs of that year had 16 points in 25 games in the Junior Hockey League playoffs. I also want to point out that this season, 19 games in, he has 7 goals, 15 points, and a plus 10 in 19 games in 2022-2023. So Jordan Gustafson has had a solid career so far in the WHL, and he is a prospect that the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be looking at and are going to be studying because they drafted him, they've brought him into that system. That is what they have done. Now, the second player that the Vegas Golden Knights have on their roster that came from Seattle, the second player that is part of that organization is Keegan Kolazar. So Keegan Kolazar played for Seattle actually at the same time as the guy I'm going to talk about after him. And that actually is an interesting point because Keegan Kolazar at 25 years old is a solid bottom six forward for the Vegas Golden Knights. Keegan Kolazar, when he spent his and yes, I said 5 seasons with the Seattle Thunderbirds from 2012 to 2017, he capped this off by averaging a point per game in the 2017 season when he had 26 goals, 60 points for 54 games played. He also had a plus 28 and had over 100 penalty minutes in that season. Then, in the playoffs at the end of his junior career, had 31 points, 12 of them being goals in 19 games in the 2017 playoffs. So Keegan Kolazar was a valuable asset to Seattle. He eventually gets brought into the Vegas Golden Knights. He gets brought over. I actually find it interesting to point out how he actually got brought in to Vegas. What they did is they traded a second round pick to the Columbus Blue Jackets to get Keegan Kolazar. That is how much the Vegas Golden Knights thought he could be. So they traded a second round pick to get Keegan Kolazar. So, his first 2 years in Vegas Golden Knights system, he didn't even play in the NHL. He played in Chicago, had 13 points in 44 games in year one, 36 points in 74 games in year two. Then 2019-2020 had only 18 points in 33 games. But what was valuable is that Keegan Kolazar got a shot in the NHL. From 2018 all the way until present, he has been either a healthy scratch or he has been on the main roster for the Vegas Golden Knights. 13 points in 44 games in 2020-2021, 24 points in 77 games in 2021-2022, and has 3 goals in 22 games for 2022. So Keegan Kolazar has been a good asset for Vegas that they have acquired thanks to Seattle Thunderbirds. But the last guy that I have to bring up is probably the best player they have gotten in the Vegas Golden Knights. And that just so happens to be Shea Theodore. Shea Theodore played for Seattle from 2010 to 2015. Not only did he have a record year, having 79 points in 70 games back in 2014, this is a guy who had 9 points in 6 games during the 2015 WHL playoffs. This is a guy who came over to Vegas and has become a superstar every single time. He has progressed. He has gotten better as a defenseman ever since joining the Vegas Golden Knights. And as a matter of fact, when you even examine Shea Theodore and his statistics and his analytics, 17 points in 24 games this year, a plus 11, which is one of the best in the NHL. He also has 55 points in 86 career playoff games, majority of them being with the Vegas Golden Knights. Shea Theodore has been an asset to Vegas. He has been a vital part of what Vegas has become. So if the Seattle Thunderbirds have that connection with Vegas, the connection is Shea Theodore becoming one of your best defensemen in your organization. Connection with the Keaton Polizar being one of the best bottom six options the Vegas Golden Knights have. And more importantly, Gordon Gustafson being a third round pick by Vegas is going to be a valuable asset because Gustafson is going to be an NHL player at some point. Him being a third round pick in 2022 can guarantee that he'll at least get some action in the NHL. It could be for a game, could be for 10 games, could be for 1,000 games like Phil Kessel. Regardless of who it is, um, Gustafson, he has the talent to become a good player for Vegas.
Now, I'm also going to mention Seattle because there is two players that I believe the Vegas Golden Knights should go after with the Seattle Thunderbirds. As a matter of fact, there's two players that are currently not with an organization that I believe is good enough and should be good enough to go on to the NHL roster. Now, the first one is Coaster Dunn, which is a right wing for the Seattle Thunder.
This is a guy who is 17 years old, but he has gradually gotten better every single year he has been with the Seattle Thunderbirds. This is a guy who has a lot of penalty minutes, he has a positive plus minus. More importantly, this is a guy that you could see someday maybe being a junior hockey, a minor league hockey guy, but I see him as someone that you could potentially bring on to the Vegas Golden Knights organization as a prospect down the line. Because his stats and the way that he is able to show his physicality would be a good idea. And then the second guy would be Ty Hurley, who is an undrafted free agent as of right now. And when it comes to his situation, you have seen what the Seattle Thunderbirds have done with him, and he is a guy that, like I said, could be a undrafted free agent who could eventually become a minor league player with the Vegas Golden Knights. Those are two players that down the road could maybe be a solid player in their development, a solid player in their minor league system. So Foster Dunn, Ty Hurley would be interesting. But now on the
Defense side, there is some players as well, like Bryce Pickford, who is a 16-year-old who's currently playing for the Seattle Thunderbird. This is a guy who already has 6 points in 17 regular season games this year, and he's going to keep getting better as time goes on. So I would say someone like Bryce Pickford, you'd have to watch out for him. I will say someone like their goalie right now is Scott Ratzlev. This is a guy that right now, 17 years old, been playing for the Seattle Thunderbirds for a while, and him having a 6-2 record this season. He went 17-2-1 the past season for Seattle. So if the Vegas Golden Knights needed depth at the goaltending position, he could be a valuable asset for them. So that was our connection between the Seattle Thunderbirds and the Vegas Golden Knights. So wanted to point that out for the first half of the show. Now, second half of the show is I'm going to be talking about the Vegas Golden Knights in general because there are some interesting notes to go over. There's also one part that we have to go over, and that is William Karlsson's back. No doubt about it, William Karlsson is back as a Vegas Golden Knight. All of the shock and all of the surprise about William Karlsson's decline the past 4 seasons, I think that is about to be done with when you have examined William Karlsson this year. Having 6 goals, 16 points, 24 games played, William Karlsson went from a guy who was only getting 35 points last year in 67 games to already having 16 points in 24 games. William Karlsson, a quarter in, is half of the goals he has scored last year. So William Karlsson being back is a vital part of the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas Golden Knights having William Karlsson come back is best for business. In fact, I'm actually happy that William Karlsson has finally found his footing. He's finally found a step with the Vegas Golden Knights. Secondly, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights organization, Riley Smith has become a valuable part of that team now. Riley Smith has gone from being a guy on the top line, borderline second line, now he's a valuable veteran on the team, and having 10 goals in 22 games, he is actually one of the team leaders in goals this season. So for a guy who actually normally leads the team in assists, not goals, for him having 10 goals and 6 assists, shows that Riley Smith has done better overall. So Riley Smith, he has been consistent. William Karlsson, he has taken a step up. Jack Eichel's become the superstar that Vegas needs him to be. I mean, look at Jack. I mean, Jack Eichel has become one of the best players in hockey, not just Vegas Golden Knights. In hockey, he has become one of the best. So Jack Eichel's done pretty well. Taylor Stevenson, as a center who can turn into a wing, his first line production has been astonishing. 19 points in 24 games. This is a guy who had 21 goals last year. I won't be surprised if he somehow matches that by year's end. Chandler Stevenson has been a positive takeaway for Vegas. Nick Hague, the defenseman who they signed at the last minute, the guy who they brought back at the witching hour. Nick Hague has been their best player on the bottom line. Nick Hague having 5 points in 3 games, then it might not pop out to you as much. This is a guy in Nick Hague only had 14 points in all of last season, 17 points in all of 2 years. Nick Hague is actually showing some form of progress this season for the Vegas Golden Knights. He has not taken a step back like it was shown the past 2 years. It really felt like he was taking a step back. So Jack Eichel's doing well, Taylor Stevenson's doing well, Nick Hague is doing well. But one thing I gotta point out, the Vegas Golden Knights, I hope the injury bug is not kicking in. There was a report about Brett Howden, his lower body injury. That's why he was not in the game against Columbus. That's why he's not been in some recent games for Vegas. 24-year-old center Brett Howden, he's only had 1 goal in 21 games. But Brett Howden, for a young 24-year-old, for him to have a lower body injury, for him to get injured again, is a question. There's also been the fact that you have seen Jack Eichel take pucks to the face, where he was bleeding down his cheek. So I really hope, for Vegas' sake, that Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, those guys do not become um, injury prone. That those guys do not become injured at some point this year. Because Vegas has done very well with their top 6 being not injured. They have done well with their best 2 defensemen not getting injured. So when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I am very happy to see what I'm seeing from the Vegas Golden Knights organization. They have done incredibly well with their talent so far. But since we have 10 minutes left in this show, we might as well do this segment. There are 5 players that I think could be trade partners with the Vegas Golden Knights. There are 5 players that I could see the Vegas Golden Knights going out. So as we're kicking this off, as we're talking about it, the first one is a connection to Bruce Cassidy. This is a guy who for 2 seasons played for the Boston Bruins, and he is someone that could become a good
player in the Vegas Golden Knights system if they use him correctly. So I will say that when Vegas has their situation right now, the first player that comes to my mind is Vancouver Canucks Curtis Lazar. So Curtis Lazar,
He only has $1 million payroll, 27-year-old center, 1 point in 12 games. Well, why would the Vegas Golden Knights want a 27-year-old center that has only 2 points in 12 games? Well, it's because the Vegas Golden Knights having depth would be a solid move. That bringing in someone who not only played on the same team with Jack Eichel for 2 years, but played with Bruce Cassidy for 2 seasons would be a valuable part. This is a guy in Curtis Lazar who spent the past 2 seasons playing 17 playoff games with Bruce Cassidy and the Boston Bruins. So, if you need a guy who's cheap on your bottom six, if you want someone for cheap that would not cost the Vegas Golden Knights something in return, I say Curtis Lazar could be a guy that Vegas could talk to and try to get. Because once again, he would not be someone you would have to spend a lot of money on to get. The second player is someone who's been a vital part of the bottom six someplace else. And he is someone that will get you 15 to 20 points a year if you give him enough playing time. Nick Dowd for the Washington Capitals. He is a center. He is currently making $1.3 million.
he has 6 goals in 22 games, just came off a 10-goal season this past year with the Washington Capitals. Now, reason why he could be a valuable part of the Vegas Golden Knights is with him being a 32-year-old who's under contract for 3 more years. If Brett Howden doesn't work out, for sake of argument, you could fill him in. If Phil Kessel goes down for some reason, he would take that place. If Dean Kolazar gets injured, Paul Carter gets injured, him being 32 years old and making 1.3 million, that would be a valuable asset that Vegas could add. What this entire segment is facing is 5 players the Vegas Golden Knights could add that would add depth to the roster. 5 moves that the Vegas Golden Knights did that would do nothing but provide value to that organization and to what they're trying to look for. So I said Canucks center Curtis Lazar, he's making $1 million. I said center Nick Dowd for the Washington Capitals. How about we go with another center and someone that actually could be a valuable part to the Vegas Golden Knights if they actually use him correctly. A guy who, if I actually am looking at it correctly, could be someone that the Vegas Golden Knights would be able to use to their advantage. Nathan Walker, 28 years old, $750,000. He is not someone off the surface who would stand out to you. But what you would understand is that this is a guy who would be a top line guy in the AHL, a bottom line player in the NHL. With him only making $750,000, Vegas Golden Knights could have him be a two-way player.
He could be in the AHL one night and then play in the NHL the other night. But let's get back on track. Let's go to number 4 because this guy knows Bruce Cassidy. He is someone who played with Bruce Cassidy, and I think he could actually make a good reunion with Bruce Cassidy if it was done right. Carson Coleman is a 22-year-old center who, has been with the Boston Bruins. He played 5 seasons in Boston. He only accumulated a few points being on the bottom line. But once again, that's not what we're looking for depth here. So regardless if we go out and get Curtis Lazar or Carson Coleman, what I'm looking for Vegas is 5 players that you could add depth to. 5 players that you could see become a good player in the Vegas Golden Knights system if they had to use him to their advantage. And the last player I would say is Josh Archibald, who as a right wing is someone that the Vegas Golden Knights could bring in as well because once again, he's a valuable part of that bottom six. So Curtis Lazar, Carson Coleman, they would be former Boston Bruins players who Bruce Cassidy would know. Josh Archibald would be a former first round pick. He would be someone that you could bring in. I would say, heck, there's even more players that you could plug in, and maybe they would be a vital part of the Vegas Golden Knights on the bottom six if the Vegas Golden Knights brought them in as a cheap acquisition. How about Parker Kelly from the Ottawa Senators? I mean, this is a center who's 23 years old, has been with the Ottawa Senators for 4 seasons, and, he's only had 14 points in 62 games. He's young enough. He doesn't make that much money right now, only $762,000. He could be for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's crazy, the fifth round pick. But the Vegas Golden Knights would get someone like that if they had to. So the whole reason why I'm bringing this up is because of the injuries to Brett Howden. Steven Kolesar's been out for certain games. We have had Paul Cotter in and out of the lineup at times. I see the Vegas Golden Knights. If they had to make one trade, they had to make one move at the deadline, that would be getting depth at the bottom six. All right, your top six is already covered, but your bottom six is what matters. So I will say, when it comes to Vegas Golden Knights, getting some players on your bottom six would be vital. Now on defense, however, on defense, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say who would be great on defense, or who would be a great member of the organization for Vegas. But if I had to spitball here, I had to go out and say there are some people that the Vegas Golden Knights could go out and get. I would say 25-year-old Jeremy Lauzon, because once again, he's a former Boston Bruin. He spent 3 seasons in Boston. It would be a bottom line defenseman. He'd be on that bottom pairing. So he would have experience with Bruce Cassidy. And that's really what I'm focusing on here. I'm focusing on players that either the former Boston Bruins or someone who would have the same mindset, the same mentality that Bruce Cassidy brings to the organization. How about bringing back somebody who's a former Vegas Golden Knight? How about bringing back someone like John Merrill? John Merrill is on a 3-year deal worth $1.2 million. He is someone who was with Vegas for 3 seasons. He was someone who knew about Vegas. And he actually would be an awesome return if Vegas managed to pull it off. So I'd say John Merrill would be a good guy on the defense. Sean Walker, the 28-year-old defenseman. He's been playing in the LA Kings for a long time. Maybe they brought him over to Vegas, change the scenery. I thought that did help the team. And we have about 2 minutes left here on the show. I just wanted to point out a few guys the Vegas Golden Knights would bring in that would be on the team. It would be $2 million, $1,700,000 that the Vegas Golden Knights would bring in at the trade deadline and would be depth pieces to Vegas. So, I want to give a shout out to PR Connected Radio, all the fantastic shows that are on here, including Cozy Stone. Cozy Stone, he does an incredible job on her show. She brings on excellent guests. I would say check out Cozy Stone because what she has been doing is exceptional work. So go watch Cozy Stone. I also know the World of Business. You have a bunch of great channels, a bunch of great shows on PR Connected Radio. You have Brian Gardner from We Got the Power. You have the Professionals podcast, World of Business Professionals. You'll have the Cause Chamber of Commerce. There's all these amazing shows and content here on PR Connected Radio. And you also have the Sports Angle on PR Connected Radio that they do show on their show. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian McKelly. This is another episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. Until next time, have a good one. And go support hockey and go Knights go.